Welcome back to Gothic Homemaking as we continue to plow through Season 5, Kitchen and Bathroom Edition. Though, come to think of it, it's been mostly bathroom so far. You think my mind's in the toilet? Your mind's literally going to be in the toilet when I give you a swirly in a minute. Never mind. Anyway, recently, in an episode called How to Make an ApotheScary Cabinet, I made this beauty. It's dark, it's macabre, it's elegant, and I filled it with all of my toiletries. Now, here's how it looks on the outside, but when you open it, oh, absolutely, all of those bright colors and shapes. It's terrible. I'm scarred for life. And seriously, it is so disappointing to create something so elegantly macabre and then have to fill it with all of those garish bright bottles. But then it hit me, wait a minute, wouldn't an ApotheScary cabinet be filled with ApotheScary bottles? And so, my mission began. Take a look. My first step was to find bottles to transform. I went to the hardware store near me and they had a lovely collection of decorative bottles. But I really wanted bottles with corks or some other kinds of lids. Next I went to the South Asian market down the street, and there, among their countless varieties of powdered curries, I found these. I really liked the fact that they had corks, and I thought these bottles might come in handy as well. Next I hit the 99-cent store nearby. There I found these glass storage jars, and with their large mouths and removable lids, I think they're really going to be very useful for this project. Next it was off to Michael's. They had an absolutely amazing collection of bottles, most of which had corks. Moreover, the prices were to fall in love with. Here are the bottles I picked up at Michael's. These are the ones from the South Asian market. These are the jars from the 99-cent store. And now this is an amazing item I bought at Michael's 1 or 2 Halloweens ago. It's gorgeous. And it's a functioning vessel, so it's going to really come in handy because the lids come off, so we're going to be able to put a lot of our items in here. And finally, these are a bunch of ApotheScary bottles I've picked up in my Halloween hauls throughout the years. Now, we can put them in the cabinet as they are, but to be honest, that's still too colorful for me as I want to go for a monochromatic look. So, I'm going to take them outside and paint them black. Well, except this one. I think this one looks great just the way it is. Fun fact, because all of the restaurants in New York City are outdoors at the moment, I can no longer spray paint outside during the day, so I had to paint these in the street in the middle of the night. For this project, I used Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch 2X Ultra Cover in flat black. It gave the bottles a magnificent satin sheen. And now, it's time to think about labels. If you search for ApotheScary labels on the internet, you'll find quite a few of them. Many of them you can download, and some are even free. But of course, I wanted to make my own. As many of you know, I have a Society 6 page, and I've made many designs for my store over the past year. So instead of drawing something new, I'm just going to Frankenstein some of these designs to make my labels. In Photoshop, I created a basic label shape, and then I imported one of my drawings. I added a little vignetting, outlines, maybe a little more vignetting. Then I started to drop in text in old-timey fonts. Some shadows, some highlights. This label is for Desiccated Vampire Tears, Just Add Water, since 1897. I chose that year because it's the year Dracula was published. Harvested in Transylvania by the Van Helsing family. Here's another one that I made. Again, I started with a label shape that I created, and then I made a cameo, dropped in my Bats and Beast design, added some outlines. Now these birds aren't drawings. They're photographs that I turned into silhouettes. I do that a lot where I take photos of things in my apartment and then I manipulate them in Photoshop. The branches I drew though, I drew them on paper and imported them into Photoshop to move them around. And this is a photograph of a taxidermied crow in the lair. I manipulated it in Photoshop to make it look a little bit more like a drawing. Then I added text, Ravenclaws for the best results used during the full moon. And a murder of crows is a nod to one of my favorite New York City goth parties. In time, I'd made a bunch of these labels. Lair Tonic, Lift Your Spirits. Bat Dreams, a daytime sleep aid. Powdered pirate skulls, bursting with natural rum flavor. You know this is my favorite part, right? Coming up with all these dumb things to put on these labels. Artisanal spider webs, bat guano tea, and one we could all use right now, Plague Begone, guaranteed by Dr. Death himself. Will save your life or your money back. The next step was to print them. For that, I dug my Hewlett-Packard PhotoSmart C4480 out of storage. I was really not sure this was still working, to be honest, but I bought some new cartridges, downloaded the latest software, and waited with bated breath. And in a few moments, holy hell, it actually printed. I haven't used this thing in years. I printed many different sizes of the labels, experimenting on this inexpensive photocopy paper until I was happy with size and placement. My original plan was to print them on this label paper. Now each sheet is a label, so that way I could just print onto these labels, then cut them out and stick them on. But I found that they printed a bit dull, with the blacks being a bit washed out. Luckily, I had another idea. Instead, I printed them on Epson photo quality paper. I've gotten very good results with this in the past, and thought the black would print richer. And I was not wrong. Keep in mind that these can't get wet or they'll be destroyed, so you won't be able to wash your bottles or get them wet at all. But the blacks are certainly more saturated, which you know I love, and these sheets have a really professional sheen to them as well. I then cut out all of the labels, and I assigned each one to a bottle. I attached them using 3M Super 77 spray adhesive. You simply flip over the label, spray the back with the adhesive, and stick it onto your vessel. That looks really great. If you're crafting with children or don't want the mess that comes with spray glue, I'd suggest using a glue stick like this one. Just rub the glue on the back of the label and stick it onto your bottle. I learned the hard way that these round bottles didn't take labels well because of their shape, so I'll have to find a different solution for them. For now, here are the rest of my bottles with the labels on. They are really starting to come together. For this bottle, I decided to use a vinyl decal. For a full tutorial on how to use vinyl decals, I'd suggest watching Gothic Homemaking Episode 3, A Shame of Thrones Part 1. But in short, you peel off the paper backing, apply the sticker to the object, rub it with a credit card or something like it, and then gingerly peel off the film. I chose to use the caduceus symbol instead of the more appropriate rod of Asclepius because, strangely enough, it's more commonly used here in the United States by medical organizations, despite that it's actually the symbol for commerce. I also put a silver one on the back just for fun. Speaking of silver, as threatened, I'm simply adding a label to this one. And now it looks like this. I think it'll fit right in. I placed my bottles in the ApotheScary cabinet, and overall I thought they looked really great. However, the color of the corks was really bothering me, and I felt it was distracting from the monochromatic scheme that I was going for. So I took them outside and I painted them black. I think they look much better now, and the bottles are vastly more aesthetically pleasing to me. Another tip for dressing up these bottles is to attach trinkets or jewelry like I did with this round one. Or perhaps some spooky Halloween ribbon. If you don't completely overdo it, it can add a touch of elegance and intrigue to some of your bottles. And here is my full collection of bottles finally finished. Now, if this were a DIY for making decorative bottles for a haunt or for Halloween decorations, we'd be done. But this needs to be functional. So let's see how many of our medicine cabinet items we can fit into those bottles. It's toiletries versus ApotheScary Bottles time. The first thing I did was place all items that I use for special effects makeup into my artisanal spiderwebs tin. Face paints, stage blood, things like that. Then I placed all creams, whether they be medicinal, for moisturizing, or any other purpose, into this jar. In this one I placed all of my bandages. Man, I had no idea how many band-aids I accumulated over the years. I guess I don't skin my knee anywhere as often as I thought I would. Now, in this jar I placed all of my cold and sinus medicines and things of the like. As the process marched on, I was getting a lot of items sorted, but there's still a lot of items to accommodate, and bottles were only getting smaller. And it wasn't all smooth sailing. For instance, nope. Well, how about this one? Nope. I finally decided to use this one for Tylenol and other over-the-counter pain medicines. And yes, I know it's going to be a pain at first, trying to remember which bottle contains what. Which of these damn bottles has my pain meds? As I approached the end, I had to accept that most of the smaller bottles would be strictly decorative, except this one. Because I'm straight up going to use this one for my daily acid reflux medication. I feel safe doing this with the bottles I bought at Michael's, but be aware that any item that was sold as a Halloween decoration is more than likely not food safe. So this one I'll use to store hand sanitizers. These items I was not able to accommodate. Yes, I use secret deodorant, so what? It's strong enough for a man. Yes, I like it too. I don't know, it's the one that works best for me. Maybe I have the pH of a woman, I don't know, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that some of the remaining items I was not able to accommodate into the bottles, and that just means that those are going to have to go into a spooky box under the sink. And you know, I think spooky box under the sink is probably going to be a future episode here on Gothic Homemaking. For now, let us see the finished project. This was my cabinet before, and this is my ApotheScary cabinet after. I think this is so much more aesthetically pleasing than the way it was before, don't you? And this isn't just a stage prop or a set piece, this is my actual working medicine cabinet. I think nosy visitors are going to get quite a surprise if they choose to peek inside. In the world of architecture and design, they say that form follows function. Meaning that the way something looks is vastly less important than it being able to fulfill its purpose. It is such a wonderfully satisfying feeling when you can achieve both. See you next time, right here on Gothic Homemaking.